Number 4. Surgical zombies. Walter Freeman, who has carried on a human test subject with a new procedure since 1936, is a psychiatrist, and Alice Hammett, who was both a housewife and a sick person from Kansas, put up with the worry, insomnia and depression. A type of surgery should have been mapped out to put a stop to uncontrolled feels through cropping nerves within the brain by Dr. Freeman, which was referred to as a lobotomy. The head shrinker had conducted research into this formula during staying in Portugal and felt prepared to perform it himself, and he penetrated holes in Alice's skull and put a sharpened stake-like medical instrument called a leucotomy set her brain straight to accomplish this. It seems that Alice was confused and worried when she has got out of bed. Nevertheless, they noticed her way how to calm down, and throughout this procedure was spent an hour completing it and was regarded as a success. Freeman carried out making approximately 3,500 lobotomies to heal people of their, quote, excessive emotions. Despite the fact that only nearly 1/3 of his lobotomies were recognized as gainings, the medical community make a start on advocating the process is a fantastic way to make better many mental diseases. Freeman, which has meant being able to themselves get out of the hospital, is a success, and the majority of them could conduct so. Instead, they were either omitted to take completely zombified or passed away. Freeman invented an advanced lobotomy technique that used an ice pick rather a leucotomy, which is supposed to get better thereafter, and this process was known as the transorbital lobotomy, and he spent less than 10 minutes completing it. About this process, Freeman cleverly gave a jab specific parts of the brain with an ice pick beneath the eye, and before any of this, the most suitable method was not to use the whole anesthesia, but rather to bring electrical shocks to a person's head until they were dizzy and didn't know what's going on. As a result, only 2 ice pick lobotomies remained, leaving one of the 2 black-eyed people. Nevertheless, they never become blind because the angle at which the ice pick was put did not cause damage for the eye itself. On the other hand, the actual consequences of the activity. It appears that a person was omitted to take unaltered at times, but other times those who were left completely were inhuman, which means that if they did not pass away as a result of shock or infection, it is believed that they had successfully been transformed into zombies. Even though their success rate is not high, lobotomies seem to be common anywhere because there were no other methods for giving treatment to mental illness. Most people have suggested that it was like a cure-all for everything from stress to, quote, crying spells since the 1930s, which was all scientific data that was published in a New York Times article without having any difficulties at the time. Approximately 50,000 Americans have been lobotomized during the height of its popularity since 1949 to 1952, when the first breaker of antipsychotic medications became available for sale in the 1950s. The zombie-making process has been little by little less popular. Nonetheless, Freeman turned down giving up the surgery and instead chose to make alterations to his marketing strategy, and Dr. Freeman went on persuading people to have a good relationship with lobotomies in the 50s, now marketing them as the ideal protective solution for putting a stop to future mental illnesses. He got them to become lobotomies look like a regular procedure that couldn't cause any damage, and Howard Dully, who was one of his later casualties, was a 12-year-old boy. Then during NPR's interview with Howard about the procedure in 2006, a 56-year-old unemotional bus driver said, "Wondered if something's missing from my soul." Currently, there has yet been any accurate number of zombies that have originated from Freeman's lobotomies, but it is likely up to the thousands. Number 3. Number 1. Bath salts. On a Friday night in late May of 2012, Rudy Eugene, who quarreled with his girlfriend, was 31 years old, and he seems to become a zombie by Saturday. Rudy's sweetheart reported to police at 2:00 a.m. that he was rooting around their clothing in a panic, and he seems to be going to a friend's house, yet 4 hours later, he requested a friend's appearance to join him at the Urban Beach Weekend, a Miami Beach event where approximately 200,000 people commemorate Memorial Day all weekend. Rudy had to leave his house alone because his friend had to go to work. Only when Rudy's purple sedan conked out later that morning, he chose to leave his vehicle and walk to the party. Rudy seemed to get more and more overheated and chose to remove his clothes when coming across the high road, eventually his driver's license lost. It is not until he got to the end of an exit ramp that he stopped to relax under a sunless underpass where a 68-year-old dossing man returned his stare. Rudy appeared not to wear clothes while he started to be a zombie at this point. The first thing that he carried out is that rolled the dossing man onto the sidewalk and began robbing his clothes. Rudy pulled the whole stranger down the sidewalk and began an assault him again after landing a flurry of punches, then moved the top part of the body in a particular direction and bit the man's face. A few moments later, Larry Vega, who goes by his bicycle, is witnessing everything. Then he yelled at Rudy to get off, but seems to quote, "The guy just kept eating the other guy away, like, ripping his skin." As I know, Larry contrasts the act of aggression with something from the Walking Dead TV shows, and it is said that several witnesses watched the attack and called 911 while the man went on being eaten alive in front of them. It is not until Miami police reach a destination where something is happening that Rudy chinned up and bayed with chunks of flesh between his teeth. After that, he took no notice of all of the officer's warnings and went on chewing the old man's face off. Eventually, the officer discharged Rudy once, but he continued to eat the body in front of him, like a zombie, and he spent 3 shots knocking him out for good. Toxicologists checked Rudy's body and discovered no traces of bath salts as they expected. They sold bath salts as relaxing bath products, but it appears that they are also smoked or injected to simulate the effects of a high speed. According to Florida's director of toxicology Bruce Goldberger, he says that there are thousands of chemicals that could be used in bath salts, and they only checked Rudy's body to find out the most common ones, and lastly, he could have had the influence on bath salts. It is indicated that he had undigested pills in his stomach. Moreover, Rudy's sweetheart is firm that either voodoo or forced drugging must have occurred. She claims that Rudy was afraid of God and was sure that would never take action this way on his own, and then the dossing man's name was Robert Popo and he had been eaten hungrily from his chin to his forehead. He appeared to continue to live miraculously despite the fact that he currently lacks nearly all of his facial features as well as his sight. Number 2. Number 4. Jungle potions at a public market. Clairvius Narcisse, who has come in on his sister named Angelina since 1980, is a Haitian man and it seems she has not ever seen him in 18 years since his death before. He explained that he had become a zombie who had risen from the grave when she wanted to know where he had been and she won't trust him unless he tells her his childhood nickname, and after all, it was actually him. Clairvius visits a local hospital in 1962 and makes a fuss about a fever and body problems, which is her zombie brother's incredible genuine story. It appears that he is checked and then is allowed to go back home, and the following day, he was certified dead by 2 doctors who had been trained by American doctors. Clairvius claimed that he could listen to the physicians conversing over his corpse and he could also feel the bedclothes being dragged over his face, and he could hear his sister sobbing. He has still been watchful until the entire time but couldn't budge a muscle, not even throughout his funeral, not burying him, and not even during his resurrected state. It is correct that I said resurrection, and Clairvius's body was stolen from his burial after he died. His keepers hit him and forced him to labor on a sugarcane plantation with other zombie slaves who had undergone the same fate, and years ago his captor died before the zombie just left the plantation and discovered his sister. I don't know what happened to Clairvius's account. While in fact, Clairvius did believe that he was a zombie, he stood a good chance given poison to a zombie concoction created from hazardous forest condiments. These vegetables caused to fall his heart rate and had him fall into a coma, and this is the reason why the doctors are allowed to pronounce him dead, and after that, whoever drugged him dug him up and obligated him to an underground slavery ring. His keepers had the ability to persuade him that he was a zombie for years after by continuously drugging him and forcing him to work without losing any fee, and Wade Davis, who was attempting to find a solution to the secret, is a Harvard professor. He made full use of the assistance of a Haitian witch doctor who said that he created zombie powder, and as Wade took the powder to another academician to experiment on mice, he discovered that their heart rates went slower. This powder's important integral part was a death-defying pufferfish, which is a story for a long time in which people have been converted to unprotected zombies by using rare jungle parts. The most well-liked plant can carry out this work is called scopolamine, also known as devil's breath, and there is no odor or taste in it, and when it is smushed up a powder, it is said that it gusted someone's face to cause them to do whatever you would like. A tourist has been come close by someone holding a piece of paper with crushed up devil's breath on it, which is extremely ordinary, and it must have been a potent residue on a business card or have been a plan and they're making as if to require guidances. At any rate, the portages method is used and the goal is to have the paper close to someone and gust it to their nose, which appears to be effective.
Estás aquí caminando y de repente, o sea, tú vas de espalda o vamos una pinta caminando acá y yo me le paso por un lado y le hago así nomás con eso, nomás con ese destello. El man ya queda boom.
Security enacted a scopolamine tip-off on their official website, and it is believed that you can be caused to be senseless for 24 hours were to remain in a dream-like state and carry out orders when they are given. 2 Colombia women were taken into custody in February of this year for putting to use devil's breath to convert their casualties into zombies and steal from them, and Nini Johanna Ray Sanchez, 33, and Jenny Rodriguez Velasquez were 2 adult females who put alcohol in a drink of juice or pop of lonely men in nightclubs and bars. They would then carry them to an ATM and make vacant their accounts. Before they were apprehended, they had found a use for devil's breath to rip off over $30,000 from approximately 30 casualties who are like chalk and cheese. Since last year, 3 Chinese nationals have been taken into custody in Paris for transforming people into short-term zombies so they could be exploited, and their casualties were told that breathing the powder would provide them with bygone Chinese healing strengths, but instead stole from them while they were not capable. It is said that their zombie slaves were brought home and ripped off all of their jewelry as well as other precious items, and eventually, they were arrested after one of the victims positively recognized them. The police discovered a slew of mysterious plants and substances, drawn plans of crossing out people's memories when they looked for the hotel room. Number 1. Toxic mold and parasites. As you know, zombies can be found all over the world and you won't have to go far to look for them. Nevertheless, cordyceps, which springs up everywhere from forests to valleys and produces again by making its zombie army, is a popular type of fungus. It is believed that the cordyceps originates like an unpopular kind of mold spore that lays immovable on the undergrowth, and as a peckish pest visits for a short time and eats the spore, it is becoming more infected. The fungus uses harmful chemicals to take charge of the bug's central nervous system, which essentially causes it to lose its temporary memory. Even though the unlucky bug is technically kept in existence, it has been out of control over its motor skills. According to Consequence, the infected insects seem to budge in jerky, spastic motions which is similar to the undead, and others can notice that something appears not to be correct with the zombie bug and have no intention of going close. For instance, should it be an ant, it will be taken far away by the others to afford protection to the rest of the colony, and the fungus has the zombie move clumsily on a tall tree when the infection becomes worse and worse. The zombie bug will puncture a leaf to keep it from falling off as it arrived there after a long time and its host made secure in place. The infection spreads and envelops them in a blurry white mold as they pass away. It looks like that the fungus eats their body and a lengthy stem explodes the back of their head, where it goes on developing longer and longer for nearly a month. Lastly, the dead body has turned into an alien flower with an unusual bulb. To begin with, it fires spores into the atmosphere, which passes the infection to innumerable other insects and restarting the process anew. Then the strange twist that happens is that the cordyceps is rapidly evolving. With thousands of divergent kinds of the fungus, each of which is going to only attack one type of insect while it leaves everyone else alone, and from this thought, is it unlikely to believe that the fungus could eventually develop the level where it could infect small mammals. Perhaps starting with bats and birds and gradually progressing to larger prey such as humans. It must have been certain to happen because a parasitic worm outside does the same thing as well, and I am sure that it can infect humans. The liver fluke, which looks for a popular kind of snail to infect, is a sort of flatworm that swims around in the water, and when the infected snail moves about, it will put a slime trail that ants are easy to discover. It looks like as if the only thing that I wonder is that the slime trail is spread through with thousands of teeny liver fluke eggs, which causes the ants to become infected as well. And while others find cordyceps infected ants easy, the liver fluke has ability to live quietly inside its host for long periods without causing any symptoms. With this method, the liver fluke allows the host to pass the infection to the whole colony, and as you know, the most bizarre aspect of the liver fluke is how advanced its mind control ways are. Only when there are enough infected ants, the parasites develop from them all to zombies at the same time and are compulsory for moving up the top of the highest nearby plant is the cordyceps. Nevertheless, there is not any mold here. The ants continue to exist, being frozen in place, looking forwards to being eaten by huge herbivores such as goats and cows, and allow the liver fluke to progress to its next stage, and this parasite can change from the ant to a zombie on and off according to its intention. When liver flukes discover the presence of a large animal that goes close, they get the ants to finish what they are doing and hurriedly run to the top of a plant, and they feel intelligent enough to pick up colorful plants that have the ability to attract the attention of the animal. It appears that there are not any creatures around. The liver flukes will permit the ant laborers to go to work and look for food. However, the liver fluke makes sure that it is likely to survive long enough to look for a new host. It is not until the ants are devoured by a larger creature that the fluke worm begins to eat its fresh host from the inside out, then gnaws on its liver as it moves more profound into the body to give birth. The eggs start combining with feces, then are thrusted into the intestines. However, should the creature excrete near water surface, the eggs will produce a young animal and discover more snails to pass infection to, and this is where you go in. It is believed that humans are passed infection to liver flukes by eating freshwater vegetables like raw watercress, by washing vegetables with polluted water or drinking dirty water, and it is not until they go inside that the fluke worms eat the human liver similar to any other larger host. At the minimum, there is also a method for the time being. So how long will the liver fluke spend finding out how to change position a little higher up the human body? To put it another way, it appears that it was the first best way that got us to become infected zombies. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because I upload a new video every day. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of my other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy.